the man who's not afraid to get his hands dirty, Simon Davis, with It's a Fencer's Life, Lessons from the Trenches.
And as an association, you provide not only training for people how to do the right job, but also how to run the business properly, or at least steer them into the arms of people that can provide that training or mentorship. Then that's such a huge benefit as well.
Yeah. I find there's really big gap there at the moment between being able to run a good business and being a good fencer. And in my opinion, I've been down that rabbit hole where we were doing a lot of work, a lot of commercial, a lot of civil work, had a lot of people, and when things go pear-shaped, they go pear-shaped in a pretty quick way. It might take a while to catch you, but once your things sort of start to seep, it takes a fair bit of pulling up. And having that fencer, that person who is installing in the ground, trying to run that business without a lot of business backing, and in previous past decades. There we go. Okay, that should be better. We're back again. Technical difficulties at its best. Mate. So we're just briefly talking about the opportunities and trying to educate potential customers and clients or actually paying for that end product and the safety side of things.
Yeah, that's right. We try and, I don't want to introduce exorbitant costs into every gate. We want to come up with reasonably practicable solutions for them that doesn't end up, as they're costing them more than the motors themselves. And there's so many things that you can do, just on the physical side of the gate, the actual structure, to make it better. Like example being your open bar gates, right? Diplo gates or palisade gates. If you're running a gate under automation, for example, opening cycle, we bypass safety for that. Obviously, if you break the beams, the gate's still going to open. And the risk there is entrapment through the tunnel post as the gate opens. So your hand passes the bar, catches the beam, you lose your arm. Or if your body gets pulled into it, you're going to get turned into a pretzel pretty quick. Easy solution is just have mesh cladding on the gate, or have less than 50 mil aperture in your openings on the gate, or having the gate posts 30 mil away from the moving gate, or just enough to get your drive racking through so you can't get sucked into it. So there's easy things. Instead of doing expensive safety edges on both sides of the tunnel posts, you can do something like that and just be safe. So creating something around it, there's a lot of opportunity there that I think as well. Yeah.
Well, I think moving forward to the one of the big opportunities once this code of conduct or the specifications are for installation are made for Australia, is that then we could, natural progression could be actual training for installers how to work these things up properly. And because there doesn't seem to be a lot around for or from what I've found anyway, I haven't really looked hard into it, but to find how to install a gate motor and how to make sure everything's right and the safety beams are on, and the you can access all these motors coming in and out of Australia at the moment from South Africa and from China and from really good reputable brands. But there's not really somebody to turn around and say, well, righto, Simon, you're out installing it in the field now. How are we going to do
it? Yeah. And there's a big grade there as well. Like you said, our industry is pretty disjointed for most. Not every business runs completely in-house for fabrication, installation, automation, maintenance. A lot of people will subcontract various elements of that activities out. And what you see is there's not my problem sort of thing. I'm just a fencer, I just put the structure up, or I'm just a sparky, I just put power to it, or I'm just the automation guy, I'm bolting down an appliance because it's got a lead on it, and setting the parameters, or I'm just a maintenance man, I'm here to just adjust the rollers every 6 months or something like that. So there's no real guideline as to what has to happen. There's no training around it as well. And I don't think it would be a situation where everyone has to become owners of the whole process. If there's education around it, though, then at least the people along those steps are setting it up correctly for automation and for safety and for maintenance as well. So that education definitely has to happen. And I think, I said sort of at the start of the conversation, we run in parallel, like the Gates Task Force is running in parallel with the Skills Committee. they're trying to develop a Cert 3 for fencing, or Cert 4 for fencing. So you would run through various modules of each fence type, as well as the ability to finish off with, potentially gates and automation as an extra module, like you do with your courses as a chippy to become a builder or a brickie to become a builder.
Yeah.
You just, that last cert, you can get that module ticked off, and then you've had some formal training as to how to install a gate or go through a gate safe course or something like that, where you're taught how to do a risk assessment on those things.
Yep. I think that's across the board with a lot of the different types of fencing. Is there's such that broad gap. I can remember, I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and 25 years ago I had to get my contractor's license, and back then it was you had to go to TAFE to do this course, and you had builders coming out to assess me, and they really didn't have too much of a clue of what we were doing. And I can remember being signed up, and back then it used to cost a bomb to get your ticket, and because you couldn't advertise if you didn't have a contractor's license, you couldn't put an ad in the paper, because that was part of the regulations. Now it seems that it's all over the place. You can do whatever you want to do and get away with it, and there's so much sort of people out there not licensed, not insured, undercutting a lot of us who are trying to build the industry into a better place. And I think that's one of the big things for the fencing industry, Australia, coming together and pushing forward. It's either keep up or you're going to get left out now. And having that wrapped around what we're doing specifically, and with the Gate Task Force and the Skills Committee, is just these steps are all just starting to intertwine now and really come together. And I think it's the best thing for our industry.
I totally agree. To have something in place that we can all sort of agree on as the standard as well. Because like you said, people are unlicensed and things like it's a big hurt on your business as well when you're undercut for an inferior product or an inferior method or something like that. You try to do everything right. You pay for your ISO accreditations, or you pay for license insurance, which is very expensive, and you got someone that's just rocked up, bought a pair of shovels at Bunnings and got an Instagram page and calls himself a fencer, and there's no room for that. I've got wages and factories and stuff like that, so it's hard, but we've got to adapt to it as well. There's plenty to do there too. But yeah, the coming together in a knowledge base sharing amongst all of us is awesome.
And just to put the emphasis on the Gate Task Force as well, it's just not suppliers and manufacturers of the actual gate. You've got suppliers of motors and other people coming together now to help give advice on different things and all work together in Australia. So it's pushing right across the board.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like a gate is made of so many different parts, right? And like I said before, the spark is just giving it power. Someone might just buy the motor from the supplier and bolt it down. Someone else has made the gate. If we're going to develop a formal code of practice, we need everyone involved in that, all of industry, involved, giving advice as to what they want, or what they would see. So, to take, say, the automation, for example, I was only just chatting to my main supplier on the way over here, and he'll sell, 50 motors a day. But he doesn't know where any of them are going and what gates they're going on. Someone just puts an order in for a 600 kilo or a 2-ton motor. You don't know what that gate's going to do, and it's your brand and your product that's on that. And if that's the one that hurts someone, you're going to get dragged through, and be a part of that process as well. So they've obviously got a vested interest in making sure that is being installed correctly, protecting their brand and their business, and also having qualified people install it. If there's no qualifications to it, then they're at risk as well. And it's the same with the hardware. We've got hardware suppliers involved, so the guys that are making the hinges, the guys that are making the carriages, the guys that are making the support rollers, the track, all of the components that we use to make a gate. Having them provide feedback. Because if we're talking about your average industrial gate, 10 meters long and probably a ton, are the physical stops on the tracks, are those bolt down stops appropriate to stop it? Are those guide rollers appropriate to stop it from falling over? Is it a self-supporting structure? So we're reliant on those component manufacturers to tell us this is the appropriate one for that, or this is the appropriate one for that, or we actually don't have an appropriate one. We've got to make a new one now that we've highlighted it, because there's this mindset of, well, this is just the way it's always been. So you got to have everyone involved: fences, automation, sparkings, you name it.
Yeah. That's the thing, breaking the mold of how things used to run, and this is how we've always done it, compared to, right, this is now changing. And I can see that happening a lot, especially in the rural sector at the moment. We've now got the TAFE course, the skills committee have got the TAFE up and running very shortly, I think, for that part of the safe operating procedures and things like that, or standard operating procedures. And you're seeing blokes who have come off farms and farmers doing their own thing, for years. This is how we've always done it, so why would we try and change it? And I can see really big challenges in coming forward from, especially from the skills committee, of trying to re-educate people. And I think it's only going to take fencers who have been in the industry for a long time to step up and go, hey, this is what we need, to get it through, so some of the others start to follow through. So we need those leaders to come in and push through and get through, and then get these other people to come in and follow suit, and then everything starts to sort of change for the better, for us, because there is a lot of cowboys out there. We know that, and you're not going to beat that too much. There's always going to be somebody who can, as you said, turn up in a trailer with a pair of clappers and a shovel and a crowbar and call themselves a fencer. And there is a lot about that. So the more we can educate our clients and the public about where we are, and also for the recognition for what we do. We're not just fencers. We do some high grade installs, and all across the board, from from rural right through to glass fencing to your big gates to timber paling fences. Every fence has its purpose, its design, and it takes a fair bit of skill to get there. So not just being a fencer, we are fencers, and we've got to set that bar really high.
Yeah, it is that, right? Like, and I'm so happy that there's a skill committee forming for that reason. Like, what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. I've been listening to the podcast. I have a similar story arc to yourself. My dad was a fencer, taught me how to fence, and my grandfather started a fencing company in the 70s. So it's in my blood as well, and I know how to do it because of what he's taught me. You probably have the same experience. This is the way that Dad did it. Your methods might be completely different to mine. Yours might be heaps better. I only know what I know because of the trials and errors, and the stuff ups and fix ups and everything that we experience. Where if we come all together as people with a genuine interest in bettering ourselves and creating a standardized product, then it's going to be so much better for all of us moving forward. Like even at the conference, like I feel like, just someone was telling me about a specific drill bit. I was like, why haven't I ever used that? That makes my life so much easier. I'm going to buy 100 of these things now. Like, and I told him about a specific fixing, and he's like, my life's going to change. Like, this is so good, and it's like that. You don't know what you don't know sort of situation. So, and it's the same thing. Like, you got a lot of old heads in rural fencing that I hope aren't going to be resistant to it, because they think, well, this is just the way that we do it. But I also want those old heads in there because, like, they know more than we do. They've put more in the ground than I have, and we want to try and make a change. So you tell me what you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what I've been finding with our group, the fence post on Facebook. We're getting a lot of fences globally now, Canada, America, and seeing the way they're doing some things, and talking to some of those blokes who have been out to Australia. 20 years ago, I was talking to Sean King in one of my podcasts, and he came to Australia and learned how to dry pack, and it was sort of like, well, that's what we've been doing on farms and things since day dot. It was really common for us, but it wasn't for them. So he took it back to America. He's implemented it over there. Now they're evolving to driving posts, and we do a lot of that already in the rural sector, especially driving posts, but they're bringing it into the residential side. So there's lots of things changing pretty rapidly, actually, in the fencing industry worldwide, but especially in Australia, now that the fencing industry has formed, and we're coming together and pushing it. And like, I love the fact that at the conference we get to talk to different people from all walks of life. And then follow it up with a brilliant awards night and great food and a few beers, and which is even better as well. But it just seems that over the couple of days, everybody starts to relax. They start to talk to each other, The amount of young fellas and like yourself come up and shake my hand and say, "G'day, how you going, mate? I'm listening to the podcast," and that, because there's days where I feel like I'm not making a difference, and that's why I do this, because I want to make a difference, and I want to make sure that as a whole we're all going forward.
Yeah,
we don't have to be you and me anymore. We can be together.
Yeah, I would say it all the time. I mean, again, I work in the commercial space where it's competitive tender. You all have to walk the fence line together.
Yeah,
you know, you're buying the same material essentially, and it's a friends not food situation. I see it anyway.
Yeah,
we're not to eat each other. You know, we are all in this together to learn from each other. It's a small industry. People move around as well. You know, and like you said, you get to the conference, you relax. People start to share information. You realise we can all be better together. You know, and take it a little bit further. You know, as it seems like we're not out there to. It's a big country. There's a lot of work on, growing population. Like, we're not going to be out of work, I feel, anytime soon, as long as you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
There's such good opportunity for us all to learn, you know. And again, like you zoom out even further and you go to a global scale, like with Sean from America, and for us, we've got obviously really close ties to the UK and to Italy, where a lot of the automation stuff's made. You know, standing on the shoulders of those giants, we can then see a lot further in our own backyard and what we can do. Which is what we're so excited about.
Yeah, 100%. It's just such a good, you know, I get the warm and fuzzies, you know, especially when I'm talking to other fencers and they have the same passion for what I do, and because it's been for so long, it's been such a single based business where we were fighting against each other. And I think I was looking at the stats in on the Consumer Affairs the other day. There's and the ATO portals. There's 5,000 registered fencers in Australia. So we've got a really big country. There's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot more out there that aren't registered, but for 5,000 that are registered and moving forward and kicking goals, if we could get everybody into our industry together, would be just phenomenal. And not so much just being phenomenal, but having going out into that commercial space and even the new builds for residential space, where at the moment we're glorified labourers. We're not recognised as trades, and we get pushed around. So if things are getting held up on a building site because of rain, or another trade has been delayed, and it snowballs down to us at the end, we're the ones under pressure because they need handover done or sign off done.
Yeah,
it's not a fair proposal.
No, not at all. And like, you got to think, we are, you know, essentially, you know, you put a nice shirt on, but we dig holes for a living. You know what I mean? Like, we come from that space of being glorified labourers, and the mindset of the commercial contractor is that, you know, and if there's an association together, like, you know, because I'm members of other associations in the security industry and things like that, and there's so much support that comes from that. You know, like Azure provides training on like contractual stuff, you know, for the electronic security industry, like how to manage your contracts and things like that. You know, you can pay for CPD courses and things like that and learn other things within the industry. And it's the same for us. Like, if we're on a building site and we're just labourers, essentially, we come from a labouring background, you might not have, you know, a degree in commercial construction management, but you're expected to perform at that level with the head contractor as well.
Yeah.
With associations, like, you can get guidance from an association as opposed to just having a mate who, you know, been through the shit as well, and calling him up and going, hey, what did you do when they, you know, knocked back your area or said your EOT was, you know, not approved and you got 3 weeks to do a month's worth of work or something like that, you know.
Yep.
If and as an association, you can provide not only training for people how to do the right job, but also how to run your business properly, or at least steer them into, you know, into the arms of people that can provide that training or mentorship. Then that's such a huge benefit as well.
Yeah. I find there's a really big big gap there at the moment between being able to run a good business and being a good fencer. And you know, in my opinion, I've been down that rabbit hole where we were doing a lot of work, a lot of commercial, a lot of civil work, had a lot of people, and when things go pear-shaped, they go pear-shaped in a pretty quick way. It might take a while to catch you, but once your things sort of start to seep, it takes a fair bit of pulling up. And having that fencer, that person who is installing in the ground, trying to run that business without a lot of business backing, or and in previous past decades, nobody to talk to, is really, really hard. So now we've got all these people coming together and talk to each other, like you said, is just such a blessing. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for the having the Facebook group as well, because blokes are in that constantly now, just putting up. It gets a bit dry every now and then, but if we can get more people talking about their jobs, where they're coming unstuck, so we can start to help guide. Okay, well, how about we're doing this? Like, the world is, I don't want to be all doom and gloom as well, but there's a whole economic crisis going on all over the place that can affect, if America has presidential bloody debates and everything else, and that changes the economy, and we have a snowball effect down to us. So that it changes. The dollar changes all over. They go with digital currency and all this stuff. There's all these things that are up in the air, and we're still here on the ground digging holes.
Influences.
We've got to keep making sure we're going forward. So notable achievements, mate, you think, or initiatives spearheaded by the GATE Task Force so far? Where are you at?
So the task force has been together since late last year. We have made some pretty successful inroads with the federal and state governments. So the way that the code of practice works, at least again, my understanding, I'm not in the business of writing laws. I'm very glad that Steve and Sherry are the people that are able to sort of help drive it as well from the association. You've got state, so we're obviously both New South Wales. We've got WorkSafe New South Wales. So there's a code of practice for the safe management of plant and equipment. So we need to abide by that code of practice. Right now, gates fall under that. So they're plant, essentially. It's a machine, is the way that they determine it. And so we've had some inroads with each state. So the task force is compiled of people, representatives from each state, because each state is policed at the state level. So WorkSafe New South Wales will investigate an incident in New South Wales. WorkSafe Queensland or Vic or SA will all individually investigate and administer a ruling on every incident in the workplace. So that guideline or code of practice actually comes in at a federal level, and then it gets created up here, and the states have to administer that. But ultimately, it becomes each state's responsibility when the issues occur. So we are working with both tiers of government. So we WorkSafe Australia as well. So what we've got to do is sort of get a lot of our information, there's a lot of boring stuff like creating a code of ethics and terminology and glossary of terms and all this kind of stuff that needs to be defined before you actually get into the nitty-gritty of saying a gate must have X or Y or Z attached to it. So we're at that point in compiling everything together and talking to each individual state and federal authority about what we need to put in it. They'll tell us to go and look at existing codes of practices and use that as a scaffolding for what we want to do. But it has to happen in line with the development of the trade association as well. So it's very confusing at times. Heaps of talking to the government, which can be slow. And they want us to sort of do everything, which, why we sort of put a task force together of people that are very enthusiastic about it. Like, there's no glory in it. I work on it at night time when I could be sleeping, but it's for the betterment of our entire industry. So, we want passionate people to be sort of driving it as well. And I've been I knew that the people would be into it, but I'm very appreciative of the enthusiasm that I've got and the enthusiasm that I see from other people that just want to be involved and say, well, what can I do? It's really, really good.
No, that's great. And as I suppose the codes of practice then leads into that next step of specifications and Australian standards. The step after that, I suppose, is where it all needs to sort of head down that track. Is that the direction you're looking at long term?
End goal. So again, like legislatively, there's still a bit of a maze. Even if you do end up with code of practice, Australian standard, then you've got National Construction Code or the old BCA. Like there's so many different ways that the law or the regulations can be handed down. We could spend 5 years writing an Australian standard, but maybe it might not be applicable to various classes of buildings and things like that. So it's tricky. And just trying to figure out which one it's going to be. And then, as I said, we've got to make sure that we're able to sort of cover everything. But that is the end game. With something in place, you can go AS 1725, 2010, chain wire fence must have 700 mil holes, 250 diameter.
Yeah.
Someone that can easily look it up and go, yes, I've done this to standard, or you go,
Yeah.
you have an automatic gate, you need to have category 1 safety, category 2 safety, non-contact and contact safety. Here's my devices that meet that criteria. Let's go on to the next. Taking that ambiguity out of it, so anyone that can pick up a standard and go, this is what I have to do, and also puts the control back into our hands when my customer says, well, I don't want safety on the gate. And you go, well, here's a strange standard that says I've got to do it. Same as a sparking. Why do I have to have, rated breakers on my circuits? Well, so I don't want your house to burn down. We get to stand with a little bit of weight behind us and say, well, the code says this. At the moment, it's someone else's decision, which makes it very hard for us.
Yeah, that's right. It does make it very difficult to go out and do a job when your client can, I don't want this and I don't want that and blah blah blah. And it's all actually you need it for your own safety and for the safety of the public around you. So it's all heading in the right direction. And I'm excited to see where it all goes. I'm not a gate specialist like you are. I'm more the basic fencer and do a lot of things that way. And the gate automation has always been a bit scary for me. I palm a lot of the gate. I'll lay footings and I'll put the cages in. I'll install the gates, but then I'll palm a lot of the gate automation side of it out. And it's only because I've never been trained in it. To fast track that, I need to be trained in it so I can train my people in it, or send my people to go and be trained in it. It's not that I do everything myself, but
that's right. And even if it's not necessarily, because you might wind down a path of having to become an electrician sometimes, depending on the operator that you're using.
Yeah.
So if you're doing 240 work, you've got to have a license. Low voltage work's a bit different. So again, if you have a big motor or a small motor, and there's a variety of different types, where that training needs to be as well is very different, and it's very great. So it is tricky. So there is, like I said, there's really good options available and coming into Australia as well for this specific thing, like gate safety training and the ability to do risk assessments. That's going to be some in parallel with the other stuff. Because like you said, you would probably put in more gates than me though, because if you're a fencer, most fencers have gates where, yes, we're fencers as well, but we work on a lot of big projects and big gates. So I might put in a lot of big stuff, but not very many small gates. That the volume of small gates still has the same risks associated with it. So it's not just over here. It's across the whole range of our industry that people need education as well.
Yeah. And there was one thing you mentioned at the conference, and you mentioned it here earlier, that once you motorize a gate, an automated gate, it becomes a machine. Yeah. And so that's something that I've never thought about.
Yeah, you got to think of it differently, right? Who made the machine? Who made the machine? We all made parts of it. You made the footing, I made the gate, and your subbies made it work. But the sparking provided the power. So who made the machine? Who's responsible for this machine? Because when work cover comes, they'll say, well, right now this is called a machine. So who made it and who said it was safe? And then everyone's going to be doing this. And and we all have responsibility along that chain as well, which is like, say there's out of the UK, there's a company called GateSafe, who provide really good training for this kind of stuff. They say, well, the responsibility is on the person who has created the machine as well. So if you have automated it, and if you've been through a level of training, you have knowledge of, you need to know that you've made that machine. So you need to leave it in a safe position. And if it's not safe, then you've got to lock that out, put a tag around it and say, this is not, this is decommissioned. You know what I mean? So, and again, from a structure perspective, if it doesn't have a physical stop, but the automation's working well, but you as the, the maintenance man or even the person installing it, you shouldn't be allowing that machine to operate because it doesn't have physical stops on each end. Which is what we saw, a death in Auckland 2 weeks ago and another one last year or so in Melbourne. Gates overrunning under automation and falling over and killing someone. Well, when the machine was made, maybe the physical stop was in place. But, once there's been maintenance on that gate and that physical stop's been removed and you've made an alteration to the machine, you're now responsible for it.
Yep.
It's crazy, we all run a risky game. And
well, when you look at it like that, but I think by thinking about it in that different sense, especially as an installer myself, I don't manufacture, so I'm on the ground at the end, not the end user, but the second last user. So I could imagine that I've got to now look at it in a different light, rather than, okay, it's not just a gate, just throw it up and get it done. It's okay, how do we leave it? How do we set it up so while we're working on it, this safe process is in place? How do we leave it to the end customer? Do we train the customer how to use it? Now, most of us will go in and, well, here's a remote, you press this, you press that, rah, rah, rah. But do we go over that safety side of things? Okay, this is what happens in an event of the power stops, or the gate overruns, or something like that. What do we do?
Yeah, that's the classic that I always talk to customers about. Say I've got an industrial gate that's on a rake, it's a 10-meter gate and it weighs a ton, and it's on a 2-degree rake. Power's out, it's the cleaners leaving the building for the day. Power's out, they've got to get out that gate, so they've got to go put it into manual override. And what's to stop that gate from rocketing down the hill and crashing into something, So in your specific situation, it's a manual gate that you've put in. How are you preventing that machine from killing someone in that point? Because it's no longer an automatic gate, it's a manual gate. So now it's up to you.
Yep.
But you've installed that thinking that the automation is always going to work. So how do you stop that gate from blasting through that ground stop and falling over and flattening someone that's standing on the bus stop on the other side? It's a big question, and not everyone has the answer to it. So providing a level of education around those, what might seem like unlikely hypotheticals, they actually do happen a lot. And providing an answer and a framework for people to go, okay, well, I've got this type of gate. It's on a rake, it's this weight, I need a hydraulic brake, and then now I've done something that's helped myself absolve a little bit of liability, because my gate's not going to take off now and do that. Because you can't expect that cleaner knows what to do. Maybe they're going to try and hold the gate and they're going to get sucked into the gate anyway. You're not going to expect that the person that contracted you to put the gate in knows what to do. You're the professional. You should know what to do. And if you don't know what to do because there's no education, then what are we doing?
We've got a big problem.
We've got a big problem, which is what we've got.
Oh, it's good. It's good to see that we're heading in the right direction with the Gate Task Force, and I've taken up enough of your time. I really do thank you for coming on and sharing what's happening with the Gate Task Force, and I also want to congratulate you on all your awards. A massive effort for yourself and for your company, and things are looking very positive for our future in the fencing industry, Australia. And give yourself a wrap, mate, of what your business does before we finish up.
No, thanks, man. I appreciate the words, and we try pretty hard, and we want to do the best that we can. We appreciate guys like yourself as well. There's plenty of people out there that you might feel like you're yelling into an abyss sometimes, I bet, into a canyon, but like there are people listening and watching and looking, and in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. You might not know what that one little name is, or what they're doing in their world as well. So I very much appreciate what you're doing with this platform, as well as the Fence Post, and what others are doing. Because together, we all get to go far, and share knowledge and things like that. And even from the business perspective, like with the stuff that you're doing, it's really, really good. And I think a lot of people would appreciate just the stuff that you're putting out there. So big thanks to you too.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers. It's one thing I've heard Joe Everest says as his catch cry is all ships rise on a high tide.
Yeah.
And, we're all out there together trying to do that. And you're right. Sometimes we feel like we're yelling into a big black hole, and no one's listening. And that's why I started this platform as well. I see a gap in the education of not only how fences do some installs. If I can help some fences get better at installing or quicker so they can make more money, that's great. But I see a really massive gap in the business side of things. And I don't profess to know it all. I just profess to know what I know, and where I've made big mistakes and changed things around and made my life or made my businesses more profitable. And that's been a real big, that's been a steep learning curve for myself. But so if I can share that with somebody to go out, and I found when things were really, really pear-shaped, I had nobody to talk to. And when I started talking to other people, I think the stats back in, I think it was 2018, there was 20,000 small businesses in the construction area in Australia fell over. That there's more small businesses falling over every day. That we see now in our current climate, that big businesses are falling over, and that's starting to get scary. There was another one sort of went south in my local area who was quite big here. Yeah, well, probably in the last 6 months, there's probably 2 of them. Big commercial builders that have fallen down, and you just sort of wonder, how does a little bloke survive when we're trying to better the industry, trying to get going, and everything seems to be price driven, and the price just keeps going up and up and up. But it's moving forward, it's just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, and that, like, you know, so I appreciate that you have the forums for that, because it is a bit scary to put yourself out there in many ways. Like, this is probably the second time anyone's ever seen me as the face of Ideal. I hide behind a pretty big curtain with just pictures of gates. But, you know, putting yourself out there and putting your work out there, you know, to be, I wouldn't say critiqued, but, you know, showing people what you're doing. I'm surprised that there's an overwhelming positive feedback versus a lot of people chopping each other down. It kind of runs in parallel with that yelling into an abyss comment. You know, unless you're doing something that you're able to put out there publicly, and people are commenting on it or engaging in conversation like privately with you about it, you will not know what you're doing wrong. You know, you and I can look at a gate or a fence and see things that other people can't. And being constructive with it and helping each other out is so much better. Like, it goes back to, you know, me remembering that drill bit. It's like, how good, you know, like, we can help each other so much, and it's not like we're stealing each other's work. And even still, like, I'll go to a tender meeting with 4 other people for a fence, and we'll have a chat for 20 minutes after, just, you know, shooting the shit like this. And you learn more in those conversations than you do after months of, you know, putting the same fence up. It's so important to have a community like that is actually wanting to help each other. You know, so yeah, I'm all for it. So.
I've been to tender meetings, mate, in the past where you know, it could be 20 blokes at a tender meeting for a job, and you can't get boo out of them. They won't talk to each other. I've been on 3 days where we've had to go on a trek to do like Queensland Rail or something like that. We're 3 days following. It's by the end of the 3rd day and a couple of nights in the pub having dinner together and a few beers, and everybody starts to get really friendly. And I made so many really good connections that way. You just find there's so many people out there that are doing what we're doing that might be missing one little thing in their process, but they may have another little thing in their process that we're missing, and you pull them together, and you just fast track everything in it, which is that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and like, as I said, I'm happy to see that people are supportive. If they're knocking each other down, obviously there's an insecurity of something, you know, and you are vulnerable when you do put yourself out there. So I can,
Well, mate, I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for having a chat with us.
No problem.
And enjoyed every minute of that. So that was awesome.
No problem. Thanks again. I'm going to go install my gate.
There you go. I'll turn that